Hi, welcome to One Eye on the Page. I am Scott. It is the final week of 2023. This is my final weekly reading wrap up of the year. I started the week at, I believe, 192 books. And I made it my goal to get to 200, which was a silly thing to do, but my mind was kind of like, well, you're really close to 200, and if you don't reach a number that feels comfortable with you, like if I were to reach 195, it wouldn't feel quite right. So I decided I needed to reach the 200. So I did reach 200. I read 8 books this week, and let's get into that. So the first book I read this week, I talked about it on the previous wrap up because I filmed that late in the day on Christmas Day, and I actually got this book in my Christmas Eve stocking. It is A Wish for Wings That Work by Berke. Obviously, it's a very short book. I believe it's about 32 pages long. As I mentioned in the previous one, we get a Christmas Eve stocking, mug, pajamas, and a Christmas related book. I got this one. I read it that morning before I got up and started making breakfast. So it's very sweet. I will say it. If you know Berke, he has written Bloom County and I believe Outland. I believe it's Outland. Obviously, Bloom County is well known for Opus the Penguin, Bill the Cat, Steve Dallas, many other characters. I wouldn't necessarily say Bloom County is generally seen as sweet, but this one, as you will see, it's more written as a tale as opposed to the comic strip type format that Breathed usually uses. It's basically Opus. He's a penguin. He sees other birds who have wings, who fly. He wishes for Santa to bring him wings that work. And he learns that he has his own skills that are needed. And he wants to fly. Does he fly? It's a Christmas related book. What do you think? So it is a very short and a very sweet book, and I gave that one. I gave it. I ranked my stuff on a 10, basically a 0 to 10 rating thing, and then I translate it to stars, and I gave this one a 7.8. So because I'm feeling in the holiday season, I will say this is a 4 as opposed to 3.5. You will see my holiday spirit decrease with some of these other books. The next book is There's Something About Mary by Codi Hall. There's Something About Mary, and it's Merry, but that is the name of character in the book. Is basically sort of the sequel. I wouldn't say it's a sequel. It's a second book in a 3-book series. The first one was Nick and Noel's Christmas Playlist. I believe I gave that a decent rating. What did I give that? I gave it a 3.5. I thought it was decently good. I had some issues with it, mainly one of the secondary characters. There's Something About Mary. Mary is Nick's sister, and there is, because I've read 8 books this week, I've forgotten the male character's name. Clark. It's Clark. Clark works on her parents' Christmas tree farm. He went to school with her. He's a few years older than her. They both had crushes on each other, but didn't say anything. She thought he didn't like her. He thought she wouldn't go for somebody like him because she was always like dating and stuff. Uh, the problem I have with this book is that how long is this book? This book is 416 pages. And honestly, I feel like not a lot happened. The characters were fine. They, it's just like, oh, they discover, oh, we do sort of like each other. That's cool. And they slowly get closer to going in a relationship. He's a single father. He wasn't married, but his ex-girlfriend basically signed over parental rights. And an ex-girlfriend who signed over parental rights, well, no need to talk about her further because she's obviously not going to make any type of appearance in this book, is she? And even that, she does. It's just 416 pages and not a lot happened. It was fine. It was fine. I will say, if I'm ranking the romances, and again, there's the third one, which I did read, I will say this one comes under Nick and Noelle's. Nick and Noelle were best friends who decided to have a relationship. And honestly, I just think Mary and Clark are secondary characters who still feel sort of like secondary characters in a book in which they're the main characters. So I'm going to give it a 3-star. It was fine, but not much beyond that. Okay, I guess I'll go ahead and talk about this. I guess I'll go in order of the books that I read. The next book was The Plight Before Christmas by Kate Stewart. A woman, Whitney, had a college boyfriend. They were together for 8 months in college. They broke up. It's now like almost 20 years later. It's like 18 years later, 17 or 18 years later. Again, they were together for 8 months. And he comes to her family's cabin for Christmas because he happened, oh, by the way, his name is Eli. His name is Eli. Her name is Whitney. If you don't understand why I'm making that face, just look up Eli Whitney. And also, yes, it does play a part in the book, a very minor part, basically to make a joke. He works with her brother, and he has seen a picture of the family in her brother's house, and he basically gets himself invited to this, does not make the brother aware that he has dated Whitney, does not forewarn Whitney that he is coming, and he basically just shows up. And I read a book later this week in which I had lots of opinions about the male character in here, in that book. But that male character does not compare to Eli in this book. Eli, he, again, didn't talk to the brother. He knew before he saw the picture that was her brother. Didn't say anything about it. He comes there, nags her, N-E-G-S her, basically makes these little comments. And again, we're told the perspective, like in a lot of these romance books that are Christmas related that I'm working on, we are told basically from the male point of view, the woman point of view, male, woman. So we are seeing inside his head, and he's talking to us about how he knows that he needs to apologize to her, but also he lets us know later in the novel. And yeah, I'm going to spoil some of it. If you don't want to be spoiled about this book, just I don't know. My spoiler for you is don't read this book. I'll get that way out of the way now. But I am going to talk about events that happen in this book. Some of which there's no way that you wouldn't see them coming, and others of which are so dumb that you should be forewarned. So he knows he needs to apologize for her, but he thinks maybe he can find a way to get back with her without actually talking to her about the reasons why he basically dumped her. He eavesdrops on many conversations. He somehow seems to be the only one who can solve problems around there. Like there's an annoying aunt who comes there and is basically mean to everyone, and he's the only one who can talk back to her for some reason. And basically, every time she tries to say something, and she does not try to stand up for herself a lot, which is an annoying characteristic of hers, but anytime she comes close to it, he basically is like, I made you come. I can make you come. I could fuck you right now if I wanted to. And that's large portions of the book. Now this is real spoiler here. Real spoiler. One, not so much spoiler because they talk about it very early in the book, but both his parents are dead. They died when he was a teenager. But he also, skip ahead about 20 seconds if you don't want to know this, he had cancer, and that's why he broke up with her, because it was leukemia and it could come back, and he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to give her the life. So rather than being, rather than being a man, rather than just being a person and talking to her, he ran away like a little bitch, and then comes back and basically manipulates her, and ends up being with her. And it's just like this. I read The Hating Game, which if you've been watching a while, you saw me talk about it, and I talked about how Joshua Templeman, I believe, the male main character in there, after the book was probably going to end up, and I can't remember the girl's name, but accidentally offing her in some type of fit of jealous rage. I do not believe that Eli would do something like this. I believe that he will spend the entirety of his life manipulating Whitney and just grinding her down to dust. Truly an awful book. I would have DNF'd it, but again, I had that 200 number in my mind. I'm like, I got so far in it, and I was like, I need to finish it, I guess. So I did. I shouldn't have. I should have said, you know what, I'd be fine with 199 books. But I wasn't. So this is my punishment. 0 stars. Late runner for possibly the worst book of 2023. Just awful book. Probably, I may have to do it, but I don't have like my top 5 worst characters of 2023, but Joshua Templeman is on there. Probably top 5. I forget a name, but the one of the main characters' sisters in Something Fabulous. She's on there. There's a character coming up in another book that I'm going to talk about. He definitely top 10, maybe top 5. I don't know. So yeah, 0 stars. I'm going to stop talking about it because I really hated the book. Oh, okay. So the next book is Set the Record Straight by Hannah Bonam-Young. This was nothing like The Plight Before Christmas, except that Christmas was part of the setting. It's a novella. It's a sapphic romance. It's one of those books in which nothing bad really happens. Two best friends decide to fake date for work-related reason, one because her fiance broke up with her and she has to go to a party at her fiance's house, who is now with another woman. The one best friend, Evan, is the one who was engaged, and I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the other one's name. Clara. Clara is the one. She's working at a place where basically most of the women there are queer, and Clara mentioned going out with her girlfriend, talking about Evan as her friend who is a girl as opposed to her girlfriend, and she doesn't realize it until later, and then she and Evan agree, and then they quickly start banging. Pretty much it's that. There's not a lot of, there's no you lied to us about this, and now it's like, oh, when I thought about that, I thought your girlfriend was your friend who was a girl. Funny you say that, and then people laugh about it. And then Evan's parents basically disown her, and she and Clara go back to their hometown, where Clara's parents took her in after her family basically disowned her. And Clara's parents are very accepting. They do not see Evan's parents. So there's not a lot of conflict in this book. And I got to be honest, if I was reading this at any other time, or if I was reading this type of book, I'd probably be going oh my God, somebody do something. But this was such a remedy to The Plight Before Christmas that I needed it. And it was sweet. I don't know that if I go back and read it, that I will look at it quite as fondly, but in the moment that I read it, it was what I needed. It also has autism representation, ADHD representation, basic overall acceptance. So I'm giving it a 4-star with the full knowledge that if I read this in relation to a whole bunch of other books, that I probably would rate it lower, but it deserves that 4-star for getting me past The Plight Before Christmas, which was truly an awful book, I have to mention again. Also, the author, Hannah Bonam-Young, also apparently writes several books that are about representation. I know there's some disability ones that she's written, some other ones. She doesn't write just sapphic romance. I think the other books I saw, I think, were heterosexual romances. So I don't know if it's your thing, but I say give her a try just for her getting me through this. Then the next book is another book by Codi Hall. It's Along Comes Holly. Holly is the youngest sister of the Winters trio, Nick and Mary being the other one. Holly's fine. Holly owns a Christmas shop, while also being a YouTube star, one who's doing well enough that she's bought her own house already. The problem is that her Christmas shop is next to a hardware store run by Declan. Declan, as we see oftentimes in these romances, is a very tall man. And of course, Holly is so tiny. Declan is the town Scrooge. He doesn't like Christmas. Grr, Christmas, grr. Again, Holly's fine. I think if Holly had been the main character in any of these other books, if Holly had been a main character in any book with somebody who wasn't Declan, I probably would have enjoyed the book. The problem with this book is Declan. Declan is an awful character. Is he as bad as Eli? No, I don't think so. But he's still truly awful. He uses his physical presence to intimidate. And again, I'm pointing out Holly is a very small woman, and he is much taller than her, much broader than her. He, I can't count the number of times in this book, and this is before anything happened between them, when he has grabbed her wrist or picked her up. And I'm just like, that's assault. But I mean, it's just very intimidating, I would think. And I think he knows it's intimidating. I think it's just an asshole behavior. Also, he's almost 30, but emotionally, he's like 14. He doesn't like Christmas. Again, a little bit more spoiler, because his parents divorced when he was a teenager, like 17 or 18. Um, and his mom really loved Christmas, so now he hates Christmas. And he yells at the business owner who owns her own business next to him for playing Christmas music. And they do a little prank war between each other, and she puts something in his car that makes him jump, and he drops his phone, so he makes her pay for the repairs. Meanwhile, he goes and asks uh, her family members about like her greatest fears, which is snakes, and he dumps like fake snakes on her. And I'm like, well, what if she had reacted like a big baby like you did? And he holds everything against his mother because his dad did all this work. And I'm like, you do know there's more to being a parent than just holding a job, right? I mean, he doesn't, because he doesn't have kids of his own. He has a cat, and as a person who has cats, generally cats, you don't have to do a lot of work, and if you do a lot of work with them, they will tell you get the hell out of their business. You know, if he had owned a dog, then maybe we could talk. But yeah. So at some point, he finds out that maybe the divorce wasn't his mom's fault. Maybe his dad had something to do with it. Never asked before, but he has given his mother attitude, and basically like she keeps trying to call him and meet with him, and he basically freezes her out. And so when he finds out that his dad may be the one who caused the divorce, also his dad has early onset Alzheimer's too. uh, and of course Declan had to come back home, and he gets to play the martyr because he's a big baby. When he finds this out, he he moves out of his dad's house, which, to be fair, he was there because his dad has early onset Alzheimer's, and his dad could harm himself. He moves out of the house. His mother is there now. His parents are reconnecting, and he goes cots up in the hardware store, um, and he basically now is giving his dad the silent treatment. And it's just like, I mean, you know where this is going. He's just somebody who shouldn't be in a relationship, and very dismissive of Holly all throughout the book. Uh, he calls her Elf, one, because, yes, she's short, and two, because her YouTube page has to do, she dresses up as an elf and does stuff. As you know, she also works in a Christmas shop, so that relates. But again, she has made enough money to buy her own house. Meanwhile, again, it's to take care of his dad, but he is living in his dad's house, which is fine. But don't be dismissive of this person who, I believe she's 26 and she owns her own house. She's running her own business. She's got money in the bank. She can pay him $3,000 to put a Christmas display up without sweating it. He's also jealous, but he's jealous of people and he makes presumptions about them and doesn't just ask, hey, I saw you with this guy, you seem close, is that a thing? No, he pouts and he throws silent little temper tantrums. I would say he's the worst, but I don't think he's the worst, sadly enough. There are worse. 2-star. I will also say, if you are going to read this, despite my saying don't, I would not read the audiobook. It is done by a woman reading the married chapters and a man reading the Declan chapters. The woman's part, perfectly acceptable, not great, but good, decent. The male one, horrible. Some of the worst narrating I've heard. Truly awful. You, I don't think Frank Muller could have done anything to make the Declan's chapters more fun to listen to, but the narrator was just truly awful. If you have to read it, please read the physical book or the Kindle copy. Do not listen to the audiobook. So these last 3 books I finished today. One of them I started earlier in the week, and one of them I started yesterday. But I will go in the order that I finished them. And the first one is Songs by Bruce Springsteen. I'm quite a fan of Bruce Springsteen, but also it is songs. It is song lyrics with some notes in there, so it was very easy to read, despite being about 350 pages. It covers all the albums up until The Rising in 2001. This revised edition was published, I believe, in 2003. Obviously, there are many albums after Wrecking Ball and Magic and Devils and Dust, and I know all these songs. I know them quite well. I did say I was probably going to cheat a little. I was going to read the books, but again, this one was very easy for me to read. Is one that I have read before. So I'm going to give it a 4-star with the caveat that it's a 4-star for somebody who is a Bruce Springsteen fan, or if you like lyrical poetry, read this. Maybe you're one of those who don't like Springsteen's voice, which is crazy, but I understand these people exist. But you could read these. Springsteen is such a great lyricist, and being able to read them, although I cannot read them without actually having the songs in my head, but being able to read these poems essentially uh, might give you more of an appreciation for him. So 4-star for me. For you, I don't know, maybe less. So the next book, I have not read this book before, although obviously I know about it. I've seen it told in other avenues. It is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory by Roald Dahl. Um, I'm going to say that this is one of the cases where I think I enjoy the movie better. The Gene Wilder version. I almost said Gene Hackman version. The Gene Wilder version. I did not really care for the Johnny Depp version, and there's another one. Is it coming out or has it come out? I don't remember, but I like the Gene Wilder version. This one was good, but when I look at the version that would I want to read this again, or would I rather see Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory? I'd probably want to see Willy Wonka. The only thing I think that this has going over that is that the movie makes it seem like those kids were killed, whereas we definitely know in the book that they weren't. Whether or not you believe they should have been, that's open to each person's interpretation. So, but yeah, you know the tale. Charlie, poor family, grandparents who can't get up until they can go to the chocolate factory. Apparently, uh, family is starving. He gets a golden ticket, goes there, goes through adventures. The other kids keep disappearing for one reason or another, and Charlie ends up being the only one that's not an asshole. Although in the movie, he does have a moment which doesn't really occur in the book. Again, I think I like the movie better, but I would still give this one 3.5 stars. And book number 200 uh, is Outlaw P by Bruce Springsteen and illustrated by Frank Caruso. A very short book. It's 42 pages long. It is basically an illustrated version of his song Outlaw Pete. It's okay. It's honestly not one of my favorite Springsteen songs as it is. I think I would have enjoyed the book if it wasn't just illustrations to the song lyrics. If maybe Springsteen had delved into the character more, but it is literally just the song with illustrations. So it would I have because I have read this before. Would I have read this if I didn't need to read something to get me to 200 and my brain wasn't only already turning into tapioca pudding? No. I, I, I'll give it a 3 star. Again, I think you have to be a Springsteen fan for this one. And even as a Springsteen fan, I like it to have it as a fan, but as far as something to read, it works quite well as a book that you need to finish another book. But other than that, it doesn't stand very well on its own. Outlaw Pete, he went to jail at 6 months old, so that's actually in the lyrics. So that is what I read the last week of December 2023. Got me to 200 books. I will talk more about the books that I've read in 2023. I'll go over a bit my statistics in another video, and I will also do a video on my top 20 books and my bottom 20 books. So those will be in the future. I have a ranking of all my December books that'll be coming shortly too. I want to thank everybody who has subscribed, who has watched, if even for a few minutes. And I hope to see you more. over the next year. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and I will see you next year. I will not, because this will be put out next year. I mean, I'll probably see you next year then too, hopefully, but I will see you later.